Hello everyone. So I've recently been doing a 100% playthrough of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and as part of that playthrough I've given myself the challenge of finding as many Korok seeds as I can without the use of a guide. Now the way you can do this is by using the Korok mask. The way the Korok mask works is that if you wear it in the vicinity of a Korok that you haven't discovered yet, then it will make a noise, it will start shaking, and you can use that to find every Korok, or almost every Korok without the use of a guide. And in my case, I was able to find 998 of them out of the 1,000 you can find throughout the game. Now, the interesting thing here is that if you use Hero's Path, then you can see pretty much what your route was in order to get this done. And what you can see here is me exploring literally every nook and cranny of the entire map, wearing the Korok mask in order to find almost every single Korok seed. Now, what's interesting about this is that you can actually play back Hero's Path. You can fast forward it, you can rewind it. And I thought it would be interesting to play this and to show everyone, because it does make for an interesting video, and I think if I were to give commentary over it, I think it would make it interesting as well. So what I intend to do is I intend to play this in its entirety. I will play this at the fastest speed because, unfortunately, the second fastest speed is a little bit too slow for me to provide sort of commentary over it. But I do hope you enjoy this. If you did want to see a more granular, more zoomed in recording of this, then I will post that in a separate video. However, that won't contain commentary because it's simply a little bit too slow for me to do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play this right from the beginning. This is going to go very, very quickly, but I will describe to you what I'm doing. I will sort of describe to you the route that I've taken in order to get this done. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. Apologies if there are any audio issues. Audio isn't my strong point, and I don't have very good equipment. But hopefully you find this enjoyable, and hopefully you enjoy this as much as I do. So at the beginning of the game, I do the Great Sky Island. I then make my way to the surface, and I go to the Korok Forest in the depths in order to get the Korok Mask. After that, I go to Rito Village, and I do the Wind Temple. The reason I do this is because you have to complete at least one temple before you can get Hero's Path, and it just so happened to be that the Wind Temple is both the easiest temple out of the 4 that you can start with, and Tulin's ability is also the most useful out of the 4 sages that give you abilities. After that, I then go to the depths underneath the Great Plateau, and I get Auto Build. And again, I get Auto Build because you need this before you can get Hero's Path. Auto Build is also very useful to have throughout the entire game. After this, I then go to Hateno Village, and then I get Hero's Path. I then make my way back to Hyrule Field, and I do each region one after the other. And as you can see, what I'm doing within each region is that I'm basically zigzagging around the entire map. I'm sort of combing the land. And the reason I have to do this is because the radius that the Korok mask has isn't particularly very big. So that extends both horizontally and vertically. And the reason I have to sort of explore the map in this way is because if I didn't do this, then it would be very easy for me to miss Korok seeds. Now, the reason I'm doing one map at a time is because it helps me to sort of organize what I'm doing. It helps me to figure out what I have and haven't done. And mentally, I found that it helped me to sort of partition everything and to sort of process everything that I had to do. I have done this with Breath of the Wild, and in my Breath of the Wild playthrough, I unlocked all the regions first, and then I started the challenge. And in that playthrough, I found it a lot more mentally taxing, because with all the regions unlocked, it just felt like I had like a huge mountain of stuff to do. Whereas in this playthrough, when I did everything one region at a time, it felt a lot more natural. It didn't feel nearly as burdensome or as daunting as it would have done otherwise. Now, the region order that I'm doing, it wasn't really chosen in advance, although there were some regions that I deliberately left till last. Generally speaking, what I'm doing is that I'm giving myself a nice mix of regions to do. What I don't want to do is like every mountain region all at once or every grass region all at once. So I mixed it up just to make it interesting for myself and to keep myself entertained as I was going on. I did leave Death Mountain and Zora's Domain to last because I thought that these would be the most frustrating regions. Although as I actually ended up finding, these regions were the most enjoyable for me. And the reason they were enjoyable might be because I was just near the end of the run and I was giving myself sort of euphoria. It was also because these regions just have a lot of stuff in them, and there's a lot of sort of interesting things you can do. There's lots of caves and so on. The regions that I enjoyed the least were any regions that have snow in them, of which there are 3. These regions were just kind of boring because with snow everywhere, it's difficult to sort of navigate, and there's also just nothing really much going on. They're just mountainous, they're quite barren, there aren't even that many Korok seeds there, so they felt the most boring out of all of them. Now, I did leave Hyrule Castle and Dragonhead Island to the end of the game, This is because sort of access to these regions and sort of what you can do in these regions or sub-regions is dependent on the story, so I thought it would be best to leave these last. I also left the Great Sky Island and the Forgotten Temple Canyon to last, the Forgotten Temple Canyon being the very last thing that I did, because these cross over into multiple regions, so I figured that it would be easier just to do these all at once as opposed to doing them within each of the regions that they lie in. And as I'm doing each region, I'm also doing everything in the Great Sky Islands as well, or sorry, the regular Sky Islands, not the Great Sky Island. And I'm also doing everything in the depths. And unfortunately, there are no Koroks in the depths, so I don't have to zigzag around the depths as much as I had to do in the surface. Although I did explore the depths quite thoroughly for reasons that I'll describe later on. Now, when I'm doing each region, what I'm also doing is most other things in the region that you can do aside from, getting all the Korok seeds. So I'm defeating a lot of the mini bosses. I'm doing some of the side quests. I'm doing some of the caves. I'm also doing any of the Hudson construction signs that I'm able to find. Although those, I'm pretty sure I missed a couple of them because they're quite easy to miss if you're not paying attention. But yeah, that's basically everything. So hopefully that was enjoyable to watch. Hopefully that looked kind of a bit silly, a bit goofy. What I'm going to talk about now is, why I've done this challenge, how I did it, anything, and also anything, if you're interested in doing this yourself, any tip that I can sort of share with you to make your life a lot easier. So the reason I did this is because fundamentally I enjoy Tears of the Kingdom. I also enjoy Breath of the Wild. I enjoy Zelda games like this. And I also enjoy 100%ing video games. It's something that I've done throughout my entire life, and I've always enjoyed doing it. I enjoy silly challenges like this. I think they're fun. I think they're interesting. And in open world games like this, I also enjoy sort of going everywhere and feeling like I haven't missed out on anything. When Tears of the Kingdom first came out, I did play this sort of normally. I did like a normal playthrough. I beat the story. I did all the shrines. But there was a lot of the map that I simply didn't explore. And I didn't enjoy the playthrough as much because I felt that there was a lot that I had left missing. So I wanted to return to this game anyway, and I thought if I were to return to the game, I probably should be doing something like this because as crazy as it is, I do enjoy doing things like this. So if I hated this challenge, if it frustrated me a lot, I would not have done this. Now, I started this challenge back at the end of 2024. So, well, it was either that or at the very, very beginning of 2025. And I ended this challenge yesterday. So yesterday was when I found the last Koroks in the Forgotten Temple Canyon. At that point, I had explored the entire map. So the last two Koroks that I had missing, I looked up their locations in a guide, and then I finished the grind yesterday afternoon. Now, it took me about 250 hours in total, I think, to do this grind. I didn't take a formal sort of time recording of that. I definitely didn't record it either. So this is just an estimate, and it's an estimate based on Hero's Path. So Hero's Path lasts for about 256 hours, and I'm about 4/5 of the way through the bar that you can see on the bottom of the screen now. So by my calculation, that would make it about 200 hours that I've spent doing this grind. Although I don't know if that contains the amount of time I spent menuing. I don't know if that contains the amount of time I spent in loading screens. So it could be a little bit more than that if that time isn't included in this bar that you can see here. And in case you're wondering, that is about 200 hours worth of gameplay, focused gameplay, where I'm just looking at the game and I'm not doing anything else. I'm not watching a live stream. I'm not listening to a podcast. I'm not listening to music. I'm not watching a film. The reason I have to focus on this is because it is heavily audio driven. So again, when you wear the Korok mask and you're nearby a Korok that you haven't discovered yet, then the Korok mask will make a sound, and then that sound is the thing that you will use in order to find pretty much every single Korok seed. If I did this muted, or if I had other audio going on, it would have been a lot harder for me to track this. There are visual pings or visual indicators that the Korok mask is active, but these are a lot more subtle and they're a lot harder to notice if you didn't already hear the audio ping that you get given. Now, the two Koroks that I missed, one was on top of the labyrinth above Gerudo Valley. This one I'm kind of annoyed that I missed because in theory I shouldn't have missed it. There are 6 labyrinths in the game, and on top of each of them, there is a Korok seed. So if you had asked me, is there a Korok seed here? I would have said, yes, obviously. But for some reason, I simply just did not explore the top of this labyrinth. I didn't explore the rim, which is where you find each of the Korok seeds above each of them. So when I was going back at the end of the game, looking through a guide, looking to see where I'd missed something, I was very surprised to see that I missed this one because I genuinely would have thought that I got it. It must have been that I just simply forgot to do it, or maybe I did originally get this Korok seed, but then I opened up another save where I hadn't got it, or something ridiculous like that. I'm not too bothered by the fact that I have missed at least one Korok seed, because when I started the playthrough, I always assumed that I probably would miss one. I actually thought I would probably miss about 10 to 20, which is what I missed in my Breath of the Wild playthrough. So the fact that I've only missed 2 is pretty good, and it's kind of insane when you think about it. The other Korok seed that I missed was in Goron City. So this was on top of the giant Goron statue that sort of overhangs the entire city. This statue has sort of their left arm sort of raised into the air, and then at the top of this arm there is a Korok seed that you can find. Now, for some reason, I simply didn't climb on top of this sort of statue, or this sort of mountain. I really don't know why, because in theory I probably should have done so, but I didn't think to really do it. It's just something that didn't cross my mind. Now, I did walk around it at the sort of more sort of surface level, if you will, but because the Korok mask doesn't have a particularly high vertical radius or vertical range, it was very easy for me to miss this one. So I simply didn't pick it up, even though I was literally walking in the area that the seed should have been found in. I literally could have been, well, maybe not literally, but it would have been very, very likely, even if I stood directly below this Korok seed and I was wearing the mask, that I would not have been pinged by it, simply because it was too far high up into the air for me to actually pick it up. But those were the only Korok seeds I missed. And again, I am very, very surprised that I only missed 2. I thought I would miss more than that. So I'm very, very happy with this playthrough, and it doesn't bother me really that I've missed any. Aside from maybe this one, because in theory, yeah, if I had simply paid a little bit more attention, I probably would have got this one. But that's just the way it is. That's just life. Now, there were 3 Koroks that were particularly interesting, which I thought I wanted to highlight. And these were unique in the sense that they were the only Korok seeds that I can remember that were inside caves. So typically speaking, Koroks aren't found in caves. So if you enter a cave, you can just take off the Korok mask, you just wear something else. It doesn't really matter. But this one here, Gerudo Great Skeleton Cave, has a Korok on top of the skeleton that you can find in the cave. And then there are 2 others in the Hebra region, in the... where is it? Oh yeah, the Hebra Great Skeleton Cave. And these 2 are right next to each other. And these also happen to be the weirdest Koroks in the game because... or actually probably the hardest Koroks in the game to find, because unless you're standing in a very specific spot, it's very, very easy to miss these 2. So I'm very glad that I managed to get these 2, and I'm very glad that I managed to find them when I did, because honestly, if you asked me otherwise, are there Koroks that you can find in caves, and I didn't get these 3, then I would have told you no, you can't find Koroks in caves, and I would have missed these 3, and definitely these 2, because these 2 are quite difficult to find. Now, one question you may ask is, did I get bored while doing this? And the answer is no, if you can believe that. So recently I've been very, very busy with life. I've been busy with work. So what I found was actually quite therapeutic was to play this game and just do this challenge. Because, you know, if I had like a stressful day or something like that, I can simply just play the game. I don't really have to think about it too hard. And then I can just sort of follow through and just allow myself to decompress while I am clearing this challenge and while I am sort of playing the game. And again, I do enjoy Tears of the Kingdom, so there were other things I was doing here. You know, I was defeating bosses, I was, you know, going through caves, I was just exploring the map in general. So that was also just entertaining, and I did enjoy it. So again, if I didn't enjoy this challenge, I definitely wouldn't have done it. It obviously isn't something for everyone, so I don't think everyone else or that many people else would want to do this. But for me, I did find it enjoyable for the reasons that I've described. So what I'll do now is just talk briefly about what you can do if you wanted to do this and what would make your life easier. The first thing I would recommend is to get rockets as soon as you can, and to get a lot of shield rockets as soon as you can. So maybe what you would want to do is for the first Korok seeds that you get, to put them into shield slot upgrades, because rocket shields basically act as Rivali's Gale did in the original game. They're very, very useful in climbing mountains, and they're very, very useful in situations where there's rain, and even if you don't have to climb a mountain, it's very, very useful to sort of get over something if, you know, otherwise the rain would be slowing you down. Now, the good thing about this is that you can use them sort of indefinitely. You can only use 1 rocket at a time, but there's no sort of cooldown on them as there was with Rivali's Gale. And you can also find an infinite supply of rockets in a number of different shrines. So this shrine here, Courage to Jump, it's a pretty long shrine, but you can find an infinite supply of rockets at the very end. And you can also find an infinite supply of rockets quite close to the beginning of More Than Defense, which is in the top left. This one was my go-to near the end of the game because it was the quickest way I can get a refill of rockets. But there are other shrines where you can do this. I just simply forgot where they were. I think there's actually a very good shrine that you can find which has 2 at the beginning, but I completely forgot where that was. I think it's probably sort of within this sort of region here, but it completely escapes me where it was because I didn't make note of it. Now another very useful thing to have is Zonite. So Zonite you can get from the depths, and one of the reasons why I explored the depths in great detail, even though I didn't really have to for this grind, is because it gave me a lot of Zonite to use for auto build. Auto build is very useful because for Koroks that need to be delivered from one place to another, it makes the challenge basically not meaningless, but very easy to do. So if you have a lot of Zonite, it makes sort of traveling around the map a lot faster, and it makes those particular Koroks a lot easier to get as well. And another thing I'd recommend is dragon parts. So you may be able to notice that just above my character there is a speed 3 potion activated, and this is lasting for 17 minutes now, but the original length was 30 minutes. If you cook materials that give you triple speed with a dragon horn, then this potion will last for 30 minutes. And what that means is that you'll be running around at the maximum speed as opposed to running around at the normal speed, which in comparison to this is ridiculously slow. Now dragon horns can be found from any dragon. You can use any of them, it doesn't matter which dragon you use. Although my preference was to use the light dragon, and the reason for that is because if you don't collect the Master Sword and you have the Recovering the Hero's Sword quest active, then you can always find out where the light dragon is, because provided you don't collect the Master Sword, then it will always tell you where you can find the light dragon, and if you need a quick dragon horn for a particular reason, then you can just quickly go to this dragon, whereas the other dragons are more spread out around the map, and there's not necessarily an easy way to find out exactly where they are. Maybe there is, maybe there's something I don't know, but in my experience, I checked a couple of areas quite frequently to see if the dragons were there, but there was a lot of time spent sort of wasted looking for dragons in areas where they ended up not being. But overall, it still was worthwhile getting these dragon horns, because the triple speed potion does last for 30 minutes, and it's always a worthwhile investment to get it compared to simply not getting it and just running around at the regular speed. Now, in terms of sort of running around the map, what I would recommend doing is sort of doing things either in straight lines like this, if the terrain is very flat, which it is in this region here, and also in Gerudo Desert. And then if failing that, what I would recommend doing is sort of traveling around the map in like loops, kind of like this. The Great Plateau here, this is sort of like a good example. The reason this is beneficial is because it will keep you entertained, because you won't just be going around the same type of terrain sort of over and over again. And it also looks quite nice, and also I think it's like one of the most optimal ways of actually exploring the map. There are more optimal ways that I'll discuss later, but in my experience, this is what I found to be the most enjoyable and also the most efficient practically. Now, the distance between the actual routes that I've taken is about 1 crosshair thick. There are some situations where you can maybe do like 2 crosshairs if there's really nothing going on there and you can visibly see that there shouldn't be any Koroks around you. But otherwise, I would recommend about 1 crosshair, maybe about 1.5, simply to make sure you're not missing anything. And in particular, in situations where there's very high elevation, you may actually want to do something a little bit more sort of thorough than 1 crosshair, simply to make sure you're not missing anything that is sort of on top of you or sort of below you, depending on what your elevation actually is. I found that I was doing this quite a lot in Zora's Domain, because Zora's Domain is a very sort of steep and sort of multi-layered region. So there were some parts of Zora's Domain where I was going a little bit more thoroughly than I probably should have been or probably needed to be. But if you want to make sure you're not missing things, this is probably something that you'll have to do. And in situations where you can just go up and down the map, you don't necessarily have to open the map that often. You can actually use the coordinate system that the game provides you either on this screen or below the minimap. And I found that 40 units, I guess on the x-axis here, that was sufficient enough to find basically every single Korok seed. There may again have been situations where there was a little bit more vertical elevation, so maybe in those situations you would want to do things a little bit more bespokely, a little bit more sort of a little bit more thoroughly. But generally speaking, a 40 unit distance probably would be sufficient. Maybe even 50 if you were lucky, but in my case, 40 proved perfect. Now, one thing on the topic of the route that I took, you can see over time that I did improve my methodology. So the first region that I did, which was Hyrule Field, this was done very, very haphazardly. I was just sort of not doing it randomly, but I wasn't doing it sort of as methodically as I was later on in the game. So it is very interesting to see how different this is. So for example, the Great Hyrule Forest region here, you can see I've just sort of not randomly running around the map, but I'm not doing it nearly as orderly as I could have done. And then Death Mountain, which was the second last big region that I did, you can see it's a lot more methodical, and I'm a lot more organized in what I'm doing. And one of the ways in which I'm getting really, really straight lines here is to use pins. So what I would do is I would just set pins in the direction I want to go, and then in first person mode, I would look to see where the pins are, and I would also use the minimap to give myself these really, really nice straight lines. So what I would do is I would open up the minimap, set down a bunch of pins, make my way to those pins following the order that I place them in this sort of color order, and then I would sort of repeat the process until the entire map, as you can see, was done. So that's about it in terms of sort of tips for anyone else who would want to try this. If you end up doing this challenge, I know I'm definitely not the first person to do it, but if you do end up doing it, let me know how it goes. I would be interested to hear what your experience was like. I will probably never do this again, at least not for this game. I've already done it for Breath of the Wild. I've done it for Tears of the Kingdom. If Nintendo ever release a game like this again, I'll probably do that again. I mean, they may even release another version of this map just with a different game, so maybe I'll do it with that map again, instead. But if I were to do it again, I would probably do it slightly differently. Instead of doing things sort of zigzagging like this, so sort of doing it in sort of spiral motions, probably what I would do instead is actually do the entire map vertically. And one of the reasons for this is because it would probably save time opening up the map constantly. And if I'm able to figure out what the sort of distance between lines should be, it may even make it a little bit faster in terms of minimizing the actual amount of distance I have to travel in order to get every single Korok seed, or if there's a different collectible in this game, whatever the collectible ends up being. And also I think it would look kind of cool. The only difficulty would be that if I have to travel over mountains quite a lot, then I will need a lot of items to help me do that. So in this case, in this game, it would be rockets if I were to do it again in this game, or in another game, it could be potentially something completely different. In terms of Tears of the Kingdom, though, I am not done with this game. There are still things that I want to do. So I still have 100% to do. So I want to get all the bubble gems, yes. Do all the quests, do the actual main story, because I still haven't done the main story. Get all the fabrics and things like that, and basically do everything that's required for a normal 100% run. Although compared to the amount of time it's taken me to do this, I will definitely finish a lot quicker. And I'll definitely be finished with this game probably by the end of the month, or maybe in the next couple of weeks, depending on how much time I spend. And that's it. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Sorry again if the audio isn't particularly good. I don't really have very good equipment. I've tried sort of to make the equipment as good as it can be. But hopefully you have found this interesting. I certainly did. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. I will be sort of monitoring the comments. If you do try this yourself, let me know how that goes. Let me know, what the experience is like. Again, I'm not the only person who's done this. I'm definitely not the first. But I wanted to talk about it anyway, just to sort of get it out there. And I thought it would be an interesting way for me to sort of close the chapter on this particular grind before I proceed to another one. So finally, actually, what is the reward for doing this? So there is a reward you get. It doesn't really do anything, but it does sit in your inventory as a sort of proof or like a trophy that you have actually done this. So once you have all 1,000 Korok seeds, you can talk to Hetsu. He's surprised that you've found all Korok seeds. He also says that you've maxed out your stashes, which I did probably like over 100 hours ago actually. And what he gives you is literally a golden poop, a golden turd that just sits in your inventory. It does nothing. It gives you bragging rights, I suppose. I suppose you can show this to other people, but it doesn't actually do anything. It's just a sick joke from Nintendo that someone thought, you know what, if someone gets all of these Korok seeds, let's just give them this. It will be a horrible joke, but yeah, that's just the way it is. And this is also the gift that Hetsu gives you in Breath of the Wild if you get all the Korok seeds in Breath of the Wild as well. Now the only thing that changes here is now that Hetsu does dance whenever you want him to. I kind of like the dance in this game. I think Hetsu's dance is quite cute, but yeah, it probably doesn't justify the effort to get all 1,000 Korok seeds, unless you particularly enjoy 100% in games like I do. So yeah, that's it. So yeah, again, hopefully you've enjoyed this. Hopefully you found this interesting. And yeah, thanks for watching.